Hello and welcome to IB Times UK. Today is the UN-designated World Day of Social Justice, which aims to support efforts of the international community to eradicate poverty and inequality and guarantee access to social well-being and justice. We spoke with Anna Arendar, policy advisor at Oxfam in London and Oxford, on how to reduce extreme inequality, a major obstacle to the reduction of poverty worldwide.
7 out of 10 people live in countries where economic inequality has grown. We've seen a greater concentration of wealth among few. Last year at Davos, Oxfam launched a report which showed that 85 people own the same amount of wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion people. This year at Davos, we updated that research and the number has now fallen to 80 people who own the same amount of wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion. So this is a trend that's getting worse. This is a trend which is directly impacting the poorest, and we have to do something about it. The richest in society are able to influence political policies in their favour to create laws that really reinforce their position of wealth. So a very concrete example of that. The richest man in the world is Carlos Slim. He's a Mexican man who is the owner of a huge telecommunications company in Mexico and in other countries in Latin America. He has been able to use his significant wealth to influence monopoly policies in his country to benefit his telecommunications company and to make him yet wealthier. So he really has rigged the system so that it's uncompetitive and so that it works to make him richer. Another big issue is what Andy Haldane at the Bank of England and what the economist Joseph Stiglitz refer to as market fundamentalism. And this is kind of 3 pillar policies of privatisation of public services, of deregulation of the market and the financial sector, and of downsizing of government, which have led to increases in inequality. And we've seen that most recently in Europe, but also historically we saw that in Latin America in the 80s and 90s, and we saw that also in Russia. We know that these policies lead to greater inequality, and we know that they lead to greater poverty, and we need to challenge them if we want to challenge inequality and poverty.
In October 2014, Oxfam launched a campaign called Even It Up, aimed at tackling extreme inequality and reducing the widening gap between rich and poor. The NGO warned that such gap is at a tipping point and urged governments to take policy options to build a fairer world and guarantee equal opportunities to everybody.
We launched this campaign because a growing body of research from Oxfam, but also from the World Bank and a number of other highly reputable research institutions, had shown a clear link between poverty and inequality. And what their research was showing was that the higher the level of economic inequality in a country, the greater difficulty that country had in reducing inequality. So countries that were tackling inequality were also having greater success in reducing poverty. And that's why economic inequality matters so much to us at Oxfam. Inequality isn't natural, it's man-made, it's made by policies. And if we look historically, we see most recently in Latin America, it's the only region in the world where in the last 10 to 15 years, they've actually bucked the trend and they've reduced inequality. And they've reduced inequality thanks to progressive social and economic policies such as increased spending in public health and education services, social protection programs which protect the poorest, increases in the minimum wage, and these have really led to bringing the bottom out of poverty. Millions have been brought out of extreme poverty in Brazil, but also in Bolivia, in Argentina and Uruguay. And these are the main policies that we're promoting to reduce inequality. So tackling tax dodging, because tax dodging creates big holes in our national budgets, which mean that we all have to fill the holes. Public services, particularly health and education, which we know equal the balance between rich and poor, and minimum wages, fair minimum wages, so that people earn a fair day's living for a fair day's work. So a number of countries have expressed a real commitment to reduce inequality and poverty. We hope that by social movements and people pressuring them for change in the next few years, we really will begin to see a reduction.
Hundreds of thousands of people in the world do not have access to clean water, enough food to feed their families, health services and education, with right groups warning that the gap between rich and poor is widening as a result of policy choices. In order to reduce poverty worldwide, governments should enact policies that guarantee the redistribution of wealth among its citizens and that oppose to special interests of powerful elites. Thank you for watching, and for more world news, please visit ibtimes.co.uk.